the most side effects reported on.
All right, so we are YK11 definitely we got some good info on it today. We'll keep talking about it on future podcasts. Now, let's start getting into RAD140 a little bit and maybe start off drawing some distinctions. What are, when someone is trying to construct a cycle, when someone is trying to decide what to take, when someone maybe is already taking these compounds and wants to understand some of the effects and side effects, what are the major differences to the user in their system, in their body, in their day-to-day between YK11 and RAD140?
There's some similarities there, even with side effects to an extent too, which we'll get into. You're going to be able to run RAD at a higher dose, but that also, I mean, that's neither here nor there really. But you know, when when we were talking about YK, when RAD140 first came out, you know, the main thing about it was it's supposed to be a replacement for TRT. Like you could use that as your TRT instead of test. Well, that obviously is not factual, right? But it can increase muscle mass, I feel, more so than YK11 does, but they both have a real strong affinity for adding lean muscle. And there's several studies. I'd have to go back and get them, and you know, maybe I can post them on forums, but there's several studies that get into, especially with RAD140, that show really strong lean muscle gains in the, you know, a lot of them are rat studies, excuse me, but they have shown a lot of lean muscle gain. So that's one of the things that it does very strong. Fat loss, and I can attest to this because I'm using it right now, gaining 10 pounds and having absolutely no body fat gain whatsoever. And in fact, I haven't really gotten it tested, but I feel like it's dropped. And that's a lot of weight to gain and maintain or lose body fat with. And RAD140 is definitely helping a lot with that. I can tell you that. It also has it's very helpful in increasing bone mineral density, and it can also reduce prostate size. So that's a big deal. I mean, that can be a big deal to a lot of people. One thing I've never really talked about before, because I just kind of read about this more recently, but and please don't think I'm saying this is a cure for breast cancer, but there was some preclinical studies that showed that it suppressed growth of breast cancer cells in vivo and in vitro models. So it was a pretty promising preclinical thing that they did on it. That's got to be obviously dug into further and whatever, but it's just something to note that was looked at and actually showed, you know, positive results there. That's kind of amazing. I mean, it really is. So I don't know, man. Rick, I have like a deep love for RAD140 now, and I'll tell you this: I always study search terms and key terms and see what's the most popular. RAD140 is far and fucking away the most searched SARM term, the most widely bought SARM right now. Over the past like 8 to 12 months, it's taken over, literally taken over, and with damn good reason. So I don't know, man. It's my new favorite, honestly, because the way it's performing for me right now, it's like, wow.
It's interesting because it's a compound that helps you build muscle, and it also helps alleviate some problems with the prostate, some of the growth in the prostate, and you get to kill two birds with one stone there, because it's what, you know, guys over 40 is what we're worried about having prostate issues over using some testosterone or using a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You know, it's funny, but there have been other compounds that have gone into trials to trying to find an option for testosterone for TRT. And RAD140 is not the first one that they've tried. And from some of these that I've read, it seems that testosterone creates a healthy amount of estrogen. And some of these compounds that have been tried but didn't quite make it is because they didn't produce enough estrogen they could actually suppress your estrogen, which long term for a man is not a healthy thing. You know, if you're replacing testosterone, but you're also lowering estrogen, you don't have healthy estrogen levels. It could just bring on a whole bunch of other problems. So that's real interesting. The RAD itself was tried for testosterone replacement. So RAD140 sounds to me like you're saying it could be used for both bulking and cutting, right? Which one do you think it's better for? It's better at?
I definitely cutting or recomposition. Recomposition, it is about as ideal as you're going to find, and I will throw that shit up against a lot and more than likely pick it every time. So one thing I didn't bring up, Rick, it's not like this is its main thing or it's like so great at it on its own, but it does help with endurance to an extent. It's nothing like a GW or an SR 9009, but you know how everybody always wants to talk about equipoise and endurance, and I'm just like, oh, I want to fucking go throw my head through a wall because you know how much I run, and it doesn't affect it like that. I know when something really affects me. I would put it more on par with kind of like an equipoise boost, but it's still present. And that's just another benefit. And a muscular endurance is where you'll really notice it. I've really noticed it in that area with muscular endurance. It's just, I'm telling you, I don't mean
S4 was the king of muscular endurance for a while. How do you compare a RAD140 to S4 as far as that muscle stamina?
No, I'm taking RAD every time, and that's hard for me to say because I fucking love S4. I do, but hey, things come along and improve and prove to do more, and RAD's the spot, man. I'm telling you, it really is. It is. So, and I don't say that lightly at all. You know that.
How about if we discuss this for YK11? What do you think about RAD140 for women?
I have less of a problem with it for women. I just, like I said before, run the dose more moderately. So, you know, I tell women 5-10 milligrams max with RAD140. You'll see tremendous results. That's all you need. No need to ever go any higher than that. But I've never had a big issue with it for women. I've not encountered too many women have. The only thing I've seen a few women talk about was some acne breakouts with it, but that could be anybody. That any type of hormonal change can cause that. So that's, you know, that's something that everybody should be aware of, no matter what. But I haven't run into too much other than that personally, or read about. So I would definitely pick it over YK11 for a female.
What are some of the major side effects or the major concerns anyone should have while taking RAD140?
Well, the testosterone suppression, I guess, should always kind of be brought up first. It's not, YK11s would be worse than RAD140s for sure. But it's one, I'm not going to say you need a full PCT for it, but maybe just a little bit heavier mini PCT. Some people will just run Clomid or just a test booster. I would say run them both, you know, in there. Don't just pick one or the other. Run them both together and just keep an eye on it. But that's always something. Hair loss is something that is possible. Something to be aware of if you're more prone to MPB. Now, I have, because I always say they're not toxic, I have seen more than a few reports about cholesterol with RAD140. I haven't seen that on myself yet. I know people that have and people that haven't, but it's something to be aware of. You might want to keep an eye on that. It doesn't convert to estrogen or anything like that, but it's something to be aware of always with anything that you run. Just always monitor estrogen, monitor your vitals, monitor these things just to see. Other than that, not a ton. Just acne is always one of those things that you got to be aware of. I have seen a few reports of increased aggression, but then again, you can say that with a lot of things. It's not like a major side effect. Dosages, one of the things, I'll talk about the liver toxicity real quick. They've actually tested it out and run doses 10 times higher than a normal dose, and no liver enzymes increased even at that amount. So that should not be an issue at all. It's the cholesterol that you might want to maybe keep an eye on. But other than that, it doesn't carry a ton of side effects at all, which is another reason why I like it so much. But that's about it.
And as far as dosing and how long one could take it and what to stack it with, for cutting, we're talking about cutting today because you're a big cutting guy, so am I. We like to have abs year round. So let's talk a little bit about that. What dosing, protocols, stacks, length of use, all that good stuff.
So the best dose on it is 30 milligrams a day, but I do understand that can get expensive for some people. So 20 milligrams is perfectly fine, but if you really want to like hit the sweet spot, you're going to do 30 milligrams a day. Okay. That's what I'm doing right now is 30 because I can get it however anytime I want, but it's a longer half-life. You only got to dose it once a day. Now, if you're on the forums and you follow me, I get asked about cutting cycles more than anything. I think that's just in general, right? So when I'm giving somebody the best, strongest cutting cycle I can go with, it's going to be RAD140, S4, GW501516, and SR9009. The people that want to go up another level, I've been adding ACP105 in there. But RAD, you can fit it into any way that you want. So you can go cut with it, and you can do it all the way around. SR 9009, 9011, S4. These are all cutting, right? Run it with YK11, you can cut with it. I mean, it's awesome what it can do. When you've got compounds that are that versatile, you can run them in so many different ways and kind of make it work how you want to based on your diet and training. And RAD140 is like the best compound for that. I mean, it really is. I could go on and on with different stacks and cycle plans, man, literally endless. So it's just any way that you want to run it, I can set you up a stack. It's badass.
What are some of the benefits of our RAD140 that maybe are better or that outdo some of the older conventional steroids like an Anavar, like a Winstrol for its purposes? Like, why would you? Because I'm sure from the sounds of it, it sounds like you would, if you had a choice between running Anavar or Winstrol, or RAD140 in a cutting stack, you'd probably pick the RAD140, even though you kind of don't have to make a choice. You could use them together. But let's say you had to. Yeah, let's say you had to. What would be the reasons for that, just for people out there that are listening?
Okay, so here's the arguments I can make. I'm just going to go ahead and play it both ways because I love them both. And I think I should always, if I want credibility, give you the arguments for both sides, right? So let's say we were going to go on the Anavar side. I think that, well, actually, I don't think, I know Anavar is going to give you more vascularity. It's going to give you more muscle hardening. And that's not to say RAD140 is not going to give you all that, because it is. But if we're going to pair them against each other, you're going to get more with Anavar. You're going to get probably a little bit more strength. Because I can tell you right now, and you know this too, because you've used Anavar enough, that bullshit narrative out there that, oh, Anavar's weak or it doesn't do this, that's fucking nonsense. Anavar makes you very fucking strong. You can gain, you're not going to gain 15 fucking pounds on it, but you can absolutely gain 5 or 6 pounds of lean muscle on it. And it is very suppressive and toxic. So that is all a bunch of nonsense. But anyway, you're going to get probably a little bit more strength. Size-wise, I would say they're pretty similar on what you can get from them. RAD140, you could probably get a little bit more size with than Anavar. But I think that explosiveness, strength wise, I think you're going to get more with Anavar. There's just something about being on a fucking steroid that induces that extra strength. Like, you definitely know you're getting way more strength with SARMs. Like, you know for sure you're on something. But I think that when you're on a steroid, there's something different that you feel. And so if you want that feeling, you're going to go with Anavar first. Here's the argument for RAD140. You could run it longer. So Anavar, you're going to want to kind of cap at 6 weeks, 8 max. I'm never going to run an oral 8 weeks, but that's just me. Well, with RAD140, you could go up to 14 to 16 weeks if you really want to push it. You're not going to have the toxicity that you're getting from Anavar. So the side effects are going to be a lot less. You're not going to get the possibility of like muscle pumps, or like somebody like me that in the past has gotten shin pumps and pains from orals and things like that really could affect you potentially in a lot of different ways, or back pumps. I feel like a lot of times it's easier to get injured on a steroid. It's harder on your tendons, ligaments, joints, things like that you really wouldn't be dealing with RAD140.
Winstrol specifically, Winstrol especially will fuck your joints up if you take it long term, high dose.
Absolutely, and that's something you're not going to have to deal with. All of the toxic effects, that you're getting from Anavar, you're not going to worry about with RAD140, and so there's arguments both ways. RAD140 is going to definitely still add muscle and vascularity. The Anavar is just going to do it better, but you got to weigh out: do you want to deal with this, and this? Maybe get a little bit less in this area, but not have to deal with this. Like, what do you want? What are you willing to deal with? Do you trust your source? How much money do you got? There's a lot of stuff that factors into that, right? So, but that's arguments both ways I can make easily, but you know where I'm going with it. I just fucking stack them together. But if we have to pick, we got to make those arguments.
Yeah, definitely. Those are very, very, very good points. Well, these two are some of the newer, I would say new ones, but they're not so new. They're not so new that we've had some experience with them. People have used them. They're in the market. So they're not that new where we're the first guinea pigs. But they're also new where they're not your old Austrian and GW that've been around now for over a decade. So Those are interesting. There are definitely some new SARMs on the market. It really seems like every 6 months there's a new letter with numbers coming out for people to try out. And I'd like to have you back again in a couple of weeks, maybe a month, to talk about some of the newer SARMs that you've seen out there and what people are using.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using the ACP 105 now, and then we can talk about like LGD 3303. We got, SR 9011, RAD 150. Some of these newer ones, like the RAD 150, for example. Well, the difference there is that the 150 has a longer half-life, so that's the main difference on it. So longer term, it's nice. Like, and for SR 9011, they have supposedly made that to be more bioavailable. We can get into that bioavailability nonsense argument some other time, but there's tweaks that are being done to try to get these more marketable or more easily used. So we'll go over all that, but just a couple things to throw at you that I've picked up on and kind of learned along the way.
Well, we've what I'll do, Dylan, is I'll schedule to have you back for Elite Fitness episode 40, which for episode 40, I'm doing a nice big episode to just commemorate our 40th episode of the Elite Fitness podcast. So I'll make sure to have you back. And any of you guys listening to this, if you are listening to the episode as it just came out, then you can tell that by numbers, episode 40 will be coming up. It'll be in about a month. It'll be ready to go. If you are listening to this episode months after it came out, then you can go right now and look for episode number 40, where Dylan will be back and we'll discuss some of the newer kind of cutting edge SARMs, the new ones that are on the market that are just hit and that we're just starting to learn more about. Dylan will educate us on all of it. So, Dylan, a pleasure as always, man. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for your knowledge and for sharing everything with us. Tell people how they can find you and come talk to you if they want to ask you about their training, their diet, or if they want private consultations or anything. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, it's very, very easy in a multitude of ways. So the forums is the easiest because I'm literally on there 7 days a week. So evolutionary.org, isarms.com, elitefitness.com, anabolics.com. To the forums, just look Dylan Gemelli. You can email Dylan at isarms.com, and then make sure the YouTube channel is being rebuilt. There's already a ton of subscribers, ton of new content. It's PE Fitness, or you just type in Dylan Gemelli and it'll pop up. But PE Fitness, that's Performance Enhancement Fitness. So multitude of ways, very easy to get me, very accessible. And we love to have people on the forums especially come in and learn, and we all educate and help. So those are great spots to come.
Hey, man, thank you very much for everything you do for the whole community, brother. I'll have you back again, episode 40. You guys out there, if you hear this when it was released, wait for that. If you are listening to it months later, then go right now, episode 40. Dylan is back to talk about new SARMs. Hey, have a good one, brother.
You too, bro.
Guys, this is the required legal disclaimer. We are only sharing our experience from years of steroid use. We are not doctors, and none of what we say should be regarded as medical advice. Always check with your doctor before taking any drugs or starting any training program.